everyone understood would lead to happiness. Pursuing pleasure, doing what you want to do, ultimately doesn't lead to happiness. Doing what you ought to do ultimately leads to happiness. So we had a country founded on this moral enterprise that rights come to you from God to pursue God's will for yourself, your family, your community, and your country. And if we did that, and we had government limited to protect those rights so you could do what you were called to do, we could change the world. What a bold idea. And it worked. In 235 years, life expectancy has doubled. It's now almost 80. The poorest person in America today, by virtue of creature comforts, is wealthier than the wealthiest people even 50 years ago. Why? Because we had a government that believed in you. Instead of accumulating that power like kings to rule us. Ladies and gentlemen, that is at stake in America today. It's the reason I stand before you. Because we have a group of people in Washington, D.C. who want to be the new kings of America. Who want to control every aspect of your life. Tell this business how to operate their business. Tell minors how to operate their business to the point where they can't. Why? Because in doing what they say is for the people, they do what they think is in their best interest so they can accumulate power, because that's what it's always about when you have power. They take that power and they use it absolutely to accumulate more power. That's what's happening in America today. That's what Obamacare is all about. It's the ultimate grasp for power. Because once they have you and your life dependent upon them, for you to get your test, for you to get your procedure done, for you to see a doctor, they got you. Repealing Obamacare is the highest order, not because it's bad for the economy, but it's bad for the soul of America. It makes you all dependent upon government instead of upon yourselves. This is an election. This is a gut check election for America. Who do you believe in? What do you want to leave to your children? Do you want to be the generation that gave up on the Declaration of Independence, that gave up on what founded this country and what transformed the world? Ladies and gentlemen, if we re-elect this president, you will be that generation. Let me just say it as plainly as I can. I know there are Republicans and Democrats in this room. This is not a Republican and Democrat issue. This is a freedom in America issue. I need your help. A lot of folks say, well, Rick can't win the election because he's behind in the national polls. And Sean was telling me, he heard a radio report as he was just walking through the office that he's continuing his campaign even though he finished fourth in Iowa. Well, let me tell you why I finished fourth in Iowa. The three people ahead of me in the Iowa straw poll, which was done just a couple of weeks ago, spent between $1 million and $2 million to get a couple of thousand votes. I spent less than $100,000 and came within a few hundred votes of the top three finishers who spent in excess of $1 million. Because I went out and talked about ideas. I didn't run TV commercials. I didn't do big rallies and events where you trumped up the crowd. I went and talked to groups, 12, 15, 20, and 50 cities in 15 days. And I talked about ideas. I talked about our economy and how we have to get our economy growing. I grew up in Butler, up the road, in a steel town. And I said, when I was growing up as a kid, 21% of the people in this country were employed in manufacturing. You know what's employed in manufacturing? 9% today. Where did those jobs go? India, China, Malaysia, Mexico. Why did they go? Well, because of government regulation, because of government taxation, because of a hostile environment to manufacturers. Well, what am I going to do about it? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the corporate tax on manufacturers. If you're a corporation manufacturing in America, you pay 35% on your profits. 35%. What are we going to do? We're going to cut that 35% rate for manufacturers to zero. If you make things here in America, we're not going to tax you as a corporation. Oh, we'll tax the employees and the people who service and everything else. But as far as we want those jobs here, we want to compete against China. We want to compete against other countries around the world. Bring those jobs back to America. People have said, where is the middle of America gone? It went with the jobs in manufacturing, because those are the jobs that are higher paid and high benefit jobs that can sustain a family. And we need to grow them back. We need to change the tax structure. There are corporations that have gone in and have facilities in other countries around the world. And when you make a profit in other countries around the world, if you want to bring that, you pay taxes there. But if you want to bring that money back and invest it here in America, those profits, you pay a 35% tax on that money. Well, what we're going to do is cut the corporate rate from 35 to 0, and then we're going to say to those companies that have profits sitting overseas, if you bring them back, we're not going to charge you 35, we'll charge you 5 if you invest them in plant and equipment here to build jobs here in America. And we're going to jumpstart the energy industry. Manufacturers need good electric rates, stable prices, natural gas prices that are low and stable. And so we're going to say we're going to drill, we're going to mine, we're going to get rid of all of these ridiculous carbon regulations that this administration has put forward. We're going to start permitting coal mines. We're going to start permitting wells, and we're going to use the resources to bring up the standard of living. If you want to see an interesting chart, look at a chart that shows the standard of living in countries around the world, and then look at per capita energy usage. They are exactly tied. The more energy intensive the country, the higher the standard of living. The cheaper the price of energy, the higher the standard of living. We went into a recession 3 years ago, and we might be going into another one for the same reason, high energy prices. And we have an administration that is doing everything possible to shut down fossil fuel exploration in this country, and instead replacing it with windmills and solar panels. You know, windmills and solar panels do not replace 1 kilowatt of baseload capacity in our electric system. Why? You can't, as an electric company, rely on windmills and solar panels to replace the base need for your electric consumption. Why? Because sometimes the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow. And so for every windmill we build, what happens under the law is that the law requires the electric companies to take the energy from those windmills and then adjust down the fossil fuel production from your power plants. So you can take that energy instead of the energy that is efficiently being burned in your coal-fired plants or gas-fired plants, making that more inefficient. So it actually, not only do we subsidize wind, but it costs us more money to take the wind power. This makes no sense as an economic policy. This is the kind of common sense stuff that I go around and talk about in all these places. And people have said yes. We finished 4th in Iowa, and we got a huge bump. There's an article just today out in one of the Iowa papers listing us there. They said there are 5 people that can win the Iowa caucuses, which is the first caucus. And number 3 on the list was me. Now, you wouldn't know that if you watched the national media or you listened to the stories being put around. And you know what they said? They said he can win the Iowa caucus. He said his biggest impediment is not his ideas, not him, the candidate. His biggest impediment is to be able to raise the money and get the national attention that he deserves, that the people of Iowa are giving him. That's why I came to Pennsylvania. I wanted to tell folks here, and I didn't want to come to Pennsylvania and talk to John and Bill and folks here and ask for their help until I went out and showed that this campaign had legs and the ability to win. This will be a very unconventional win. No one has been able to, if I win this nomination, I should say when I win this nomination, we will be the only candidate that's ever done and come from where we are to win. But this is a very unusual time in America. The reason you see all these candidates that come on the scene, whether it's Rick Perry or Michelle Bachmann or Herman Cain or Donald Trump, they all go to the tops of the polls. Why? Because the American public has not decided who they want. They haven't seen the candidate they're really excited about. Well, they haven't seen us yet. But we're going to be the little engine that could, as John said. And we're going to keep plugging away. There are a lot of shiny engines that are going to come by, and everyone's going to go, ooh and ah, look at this new shiny engine that might be able to take the train over the hill. And we just hitched it up, and we're chugging along. People in Blair County have been very